There is a war happening inside you, quiet, invisible, relentless. No crowd gathers to watch it. No headlines announce it. Yet every single day its outcome determines the direction of your life. It decides whether you rise or remain stuck, whether you build or break, whether you become something extraordinary or settle into the slow decay of unrealized potential. This war is not fought with weapons. It is fought with thoughts. And whether you realize it or not, you are either the commander of your mind or its prisoner. Most people never notice the moment they surrender. It doesn't feel dramatic. There is no grand collapse. It begins subtly, with a thought you didn't challenge, a doubt you let sit, a fear you entertained just long enough for it to take root, then another and another, until one day, without ever consciously deciding it, you find yourself living a life shaped not by intention, but by default. You wake up reacting instead of creating. You hesitate instead of acting. You shrink instead of expanding. Not because you lack ability, not because you lack opportunity, but because your mind has assumed control without your permission. And the mind left undirected does not drift toward greatness. It drifts toward comfort, toward fear, toward repetition, toward safety disguised as limitation. Understand this clearly. Your mind is the most powerful instrument you will ever possess. It is also the most dangerous when left unchecked. It will either become the architect of your destiny or the architect of your excuses. It will either build empires or reinforce cages. There is no neutral state. You are either commanding it or being ruled by it. The difference between these two states is not talent, it is not luck, it is not background or circumstance. It is awareness and the decision that follows awareness. Because the moment you recognize that your thoughts are not you but something you can direct, everything begins to change. You stop identifying with every passing doubt. You stop obeying every fleeting fear. You stop accepting every limiting belief as truth. You begin to question. You begin to observe. You begin to choose. And in that choice lies power. But this is where most people falter. They think controlling the mind means eliminating negative thoughts. They believe mastery requires silence, perfection, constant positivity. That is not mastery. That is avoidance. True mastery is not about silencing the mind. It is about directing it. It is about taking the raw, chaotic energy of your thoughts and forging them into something purposeful. Your mind is not your enemy, it is your tool. But like any powerful tool, it demands discipline. Imagine a ship in the middle of an endless ocean. The winds represent your thoughts, sometimes calm, sometimes violent, always shifting. You cannot control the wind, but you can control the sail. You can control the direction. Most people let the wind decide where they go. They drift, carried by whatever current happens to take hold. And when they arrive somewhere they never intended, they call it fate. But it was never fate. It was neglect. The disciplined mind does not eliminate the storm. It navigates through it. And that begins with belief. Not surface-level belief, not empty affirmations whispered without conviction. Real belief, the kind that rewires your perception of what is possible. Because your mind will not act beyond what it believes to be true. If deep down you believe you are limited, your actions will reflect hesitation. If you believe success is reserved for others, your effort will remain half-hearted. If you believe failure defines you, you will avoid the very risks that lead to growth. Your external world is always a mirror of your internal beliefs. Change the belief, and you begin to change the reflection. But belief is not something you simply decide once. It is something you build brick by brick through repetition, through evidence, through deliberate focus. You train your mind to believe by showing it proof through action. Small wins matter. Kept promises matter. Every time you follow through on something you said you would do, you reinforce a new identity. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who wishes, but as someone who acts. Not as someone who hopes, but as someone who creates. And once that shift begins, something powerful happens. Your mind stops working against you and starts working for you. Clarity emerges because confusion is not a lack of intelligence, it is a lack of decision. When your mind is undisciplined, it jumps from one idea to another, one desire to the next, chasing everything and committing to nothing. It becomes overwhelmed, scattered, paralyzed. But when you command your mind, you give it direction. You decide what matters. You define what you want. And you eliminate everything that does not serve that vision. Clarity is not found, it is created. It is the result of removing the unnecessary until only the essential remains. And once you have clarity, you gain something even more powerful: vision. Vision is the ability to see beyond your current reality. It is the mental image of a future that does not yet exist, but could if you commit to it fully. This is where the mind becomes extraordinary, because the same mind that once trapped you in limitation now becomes the source of your expansion. You begin to see possibilities where others see obstacles. You begin to imagine outcomes that once felt out of reach. And the more vividly you hold that vision, the more your mind begins to align with it. Your thoughts start to organize around it. Your decisions start to support it. Your actions start to reflect it. This is not magic. This is focus. Where attention goes, energy flows. And where energy flows, results follow. But vision alone is not enough, because without discipline, vision becomes fantasy. Discipline is the bridge between what you see in your mind and what you create in your life. It is the daily commitment to act regardless of mood, regardless of comfort, regardless of resistance, and resistance will come. Your mind will resist change because it is wired for familiarity. It will try to pull you back into old patterns, old habits, old ways of thinking. It will whisper excuses that sound reasonable. Not today, maybe later. You're not ready, and if you are not aware, you will listen. This is why discipline is not just about action, it is about awareness. It is about recognizing the voice of resistance and choosing not to obey it. Every time you override that voice, you strengthen your command. Every time you act despite discomfort, you reinforce control. And over time, something shifts. What once felt difficult becomes automatic. What once required effort becomes natural, because your mind adapts to what you repeatedly demand of it. You are always training it. The question is, what are you training it to do? To hesitate or to act? To doubt or to believe? To quit or to persist? Because persistence is where transformation solidifies. Anyone can start, few continue. And the difference is not motivation, it is commitment. Motivation fluctuates. It rises and falls like a wave. If you rely on it, you will be inconsistent. Commitment, on the other hand, is steady. It does not ask how you feel. It asks what you decided. And when you operate from commitment, your mind begins to understand that quitting is no longer an option. It stops negotiating. It stops searching for escape routes. It accepts the direction you have set, and it follows. This is the moment where you begin to feel something rare: internal alignment. Your thoughts, your actions, and your goals start moving in the same direction. There is less friction, less doubt, less hesitation. And in that alignment, you find momentum. Momentum is powerful because it compounds. Each action builds on the last. Each success reinforces the next. And suddenly what once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. But do not mistake momentum for invincibility. Challenges will come. Setbacks will happen. And this is where resilience becomes essential. Resilience is not about avoiding failure. It is about absorbing it without losing direction. Your mind will try to interpret failure as defeat. It will try to convince you that setbacks are signs to stop. But a commanded mind sees differently. It sees feedback. It sees lessons. It sees opportunities to adjust, to refine, to grow. Because failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Every misstep contains information. Every obstacle reveals something you did not yet understand. And if you remain open, if you remain adaptable, your mind transforms these experiences into fuel. Fuel for improvement, fuel for evolution, fuel for becoming something stronger than before. This is how you break the cycle of limitation. This is how you rise beyond the version of yourself that once felt stuck. You do not wait for circumstances to change. You change the way your mind responds to them. And in doing so, you reclaim control. Because at the end of it all, the truth is simple. Your life is not defined by what happens to you. It is defined by how your mind interprets and responds to what happens. Command that response, and you command your life. Lose control of that response, and you surrender everything. The choice is not made once. It is made daily, in every thought you entertain, in every belief you reinforce, in every action you take or avoid. You are always choosing. The question is, are you choosing consciously or by default? Because the mind does not care which path you take. It will follow whatever you consistently feed it. Feed it doubt, and it will produce limitation. Feed it clarity, belief, and disciplined action, and it will produce results beyond what you once thought possible. So stand firm in this understanding. You are not here to be controlled by your mind. You are here to command it. And the moment you fully accept that responsibility, everything begins to change. Because once you accept that responsibility, you step into a different kind of existence, one where you no longer drift through your days reacting to circumstances, but instead move with intention, with direction, with purpose carved into every decision you make. And purpose is where the mind finds its highest level of power. Without purpose, the mind wanders. It becomes distracted by trivialities, pulled in 1,000 directions by impulses, desires, and fleeting emotions. It chases comfort one moment and fears discomfort the next, never settling long enough to build anything meaningful. But when purpose enters the equation, everything sharpens. Purpose is not just a goal. It is not a temporary target you hit and then replace. Purpose is deeper. It is the reason behind the effort, the meaning behind the struggle, the force that keeps you moving when motivation fades and results are nowhere in sight. When your mind is anchored to purpose, it stops asking, "Do I feel like it today?" and starts asking, "Is this aligned with who I am becoming?" And that shift changes everything, because now your decisions are no longer based on comfort, they are based on alignment. You begin to act not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. You begin to endure not because you enjoy the struggle, but because you understand its role in shaping you. And slowly, steadily, your identity evolves. You are no longer someone trying to become disciplined. You are someone who is disciplined. You are no longer someone chasing success. You are someone who creates it. This is the quiet transformation that happens when the mind is no longer scattered, no longer reactive, no longer enslaved by impulse. It becomes focused. And focus is a superpower in a world built on distraction. Look around. Every direction you turn, something is competing for your attention. Notifications, noise, opinions, expectations, all pulling at your mind, fragmenting your energy, diluting your ability to concentrate on what truly matters. An undisciplined mind cannot survive in this environment. It gets pulled into endless cycles of consumption, comparison, and confusion. It becomes busy, but not productive, occupied, but not effective, moving, but not progressing. But when you command your mind, you reclaim your attention. And attention is your most valuable currency. Where you place it determines what grows in your life. If you place it on distractions, distractions will multiply. If you place it on negativity, negativity will expand. But if you place it on growth, on purpose, on meaningful action, then that is what begins to dominate your reality. This is why focus is not just about concentration, it is about elimination. It is about having the strength to say no to what does not serve you, even when it is tempting, even when it is easy, even when it feels harmless. Because the truth is, most people do not fail because of one catastrophic decision. They fail because of 1,000 small distractions that slowly pull them away from their path. A few minutes wasted here, a moment of doubt entertained there, a day of inconsistency justified. And over time, those small moments compound into a life that feels off track. But the commanded mind does not allow this drift. It is aware. It is intentional. It understands that every moment is a choice, and every choice carries weight. So it chooses carefully. It protects its time. It guards its energy. It directs its focus like a laser, cutting through the noise and locking onto what matters most. And in that level of focus, something powerful begins to emerge: mastery. Mastery is not a talent you are born with. It is not reserved for a select few. It is the result of sustained, deliberate focus over time. It is what happens when you commit to something deeply enough that your mind begins to understand its patterns, its nuances, its intricacies. And that level of understanding only comes when you remove the distractions that prevent you from going deep, because depth is where growth happens. Surface-level effort produces surface-level results. But when you go deep, when you immerse yourself fully, when you engage your mind completely, you unlock a different level of capability. You begin to see connections others miss. You begin to solve problems others avoid. You begin to create at a level others cannot replicate. And all of this stems from one decision, the decision to focus. But focus alone is not enough, because even the most focused mind will face moments of doubt, moments where the path forward is unclear, moments where the effort feels heavy and the results feel distant. This is where belief must evolve into faith. Belief is built on evidence, on what you have seen, what you have experienced, what you have proven to yourself. But faith goes beyond evidence. It is the ability to continue forward even when the evidence is not yet visible. It is the quiet certainty that your efforts are not in vain even when the outcome has not materialized. It is trusting the process when the process feels uncertain. And this is where most people break. Because the mind craves certainty, it wants guarantees, it wants proof that the effort will pay off before it fully commits. But life does not operate on guarantees. It operates on possibility. And those who achieve extraordinary results are the ones who learn to act in the absence of certainty. They move forward not because they know exactly how things will unfold, but because they trust in their ability to adapt, to learn, to overcome whatever challenges arise. This is the essence of a commanded mind. It does not wait for perfect conditions. It creates momentum in imperfect ones. It does not require full clarity before taking action. It understands that clarity often comes through action. And so it moves step by step, decision by decision, building confidence not from speculation, but from experience. And as that experience grows, so does something even more powerful: self-trust. Self-trust is the foundation of all achievement, because without it, every decision becomes a battle. Every risk feels overwhelming. Every setback feels like confirmation of failure. But when you trust yourself, when you know at your core that no matter what happens, you will find a way to respond, to adjust, to continue, fear begins to lose its grip. You stop asking, what if this goes wrong? And start asking, if it does, how will I handle it? That shift removes paralysis. It replaces hesitation with readiness. It transforms fear from a barrier into a signal that you are stepping into something that matters. And when your mind begins to interpret fear this way, it no longer runs from it. It leans into it because it understands that growth lives on the other side of discomfort. This is where courage is born. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. And courage, when practiced consistently, becomes confidence. Not the loud, performative kind, but the quiet, unshakable kind. The kind that does not need validation. the kind that does not crumble under pressure, the kind that knows without needing to prove that it is capable. This is the mindset that separates those who dream from those who build, because dreaming is easy. It requires no risk, no effort, no accountability. But building demands everything. It demands your focus, your discipline, your resilience, your willingness to face uncertainty and move forward anyway. And above all, it demands your ability to command your mind when it tries to pull you in the opposite direction, because it will. There will be days when your mind is loud with doubt, days when it questions your path, your ability, your worth, days when it presents you with every possible reason to stop. And in those moments, the question is not whether those thoughts will appear. They will. The question is whether you will obey them. Because thoughts, no matter how convincing, are not commands. They are suggestions. And you have the power to accept or reject them. This is the discipline that must be cultivated. The ability to hear the voice of doubt and choose not to follow it. The ability to feel the weight of fear and move anyway. The ability to experience discomfort and continue forward without retreat. This is not something you master overnight. It is built through repetition, through small acts of defiance against the patterns that once controlled you. Every time you choose action over hesitation, you strengthen your command. Every time you choose belief over doubt, you reinforce your direction. Every time you choose persistence over quitting, you solidify your identity. And over time, these choices compound. They reshape the way your mind operates. They transform the way you see yourself. They elevate the standard you hold for your own life. Because once you realize what you are capable of, once you experience the power of a mind that is directed, disciplined, and aligned, you cannot go back to being controlled by it. You cannot return to a life of passive existence. You cannot settle for less than what you now know is possible. And this is where something profound begins to take shape. Gratitude. Not the shallow kind that is spoken without feeling, but the deep, grounding awareness of what it means to have control over your own mind. Because when you truly understand this power, you begin to see everything differently. You begin to appreciate the challenges that once frustrated you because you now see them as opportunities to strengthen your command. You begin to value the moments of discomfort because you understand their role in your growth. You begin to recognize that every experience, good or bad, is raw material for your development. And in that recognition, you find a sense of peace. Not because life becomes easy, but because you become capable of handling whatever comes, capable of adapting, of learning, of evolving, capable of maintaining direction, regardless of circumstance. And that capability, that is freedom. Not the freedom of avoiding difficulty, but the freedom of knowing that difficulty does not control you, because you have learned to command the one thing that determines everything else, your mind,